Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Secret Astrology. Makayla here, finishing up the Ascendant series, and this one is for Pisces Risings. Okay. My apologies, you had to wait a little bit because I started this series back in the spring, but here we are. I'm actually coming back and doing them longer than before. So, before I get into Pisces Rising from the evolutionary astrology approach, I do want to mention that I do have a video put out. It's about 17 minutes long, and it talks about what the ascendant means in general from an evolutionary astrology perspective. Okay. So if you haven't watched that video, I highly recommend you watch that one first. Okay. So you understand what the ascendant means in the astrology chart. And then you can come back here. We can talk about your Pisces rising, right? Your Pisces ascendant, and what is your specific evolutionary intention being born under this sign, right? So make sure you check that out. Okay. So Pisces rising. Let's remember that if you're returning to this video, remember that the ascendant is what you are slowly becoming over the arc of your life, okay, over the lifetime. It's an instinctual response that happens within you, okay? So you're not always aware of it. At least I find people aren't aware of their rising sign or not in tune with the qualities of their rising sign until they start to learn the lens of astrology and then they can pick up on those traits and those characteristics that, the archetypes that you are more predominant in your chart, you get to pick up on that, right? So, you know, for you, it might have been hard growing up or early on if you did not have the lens of astrology or did not have the tools or the energetic tools to understand that you are an incredibly sensitive human being. Okay. Pisces risings are super porous to their environment and the people that are in their environment. Okay. So you are learning to become very aware that you are sensitive, okay? That you're super sensitive to energy. You're super attuned also to how energy feels, okay? Um, if you're somebody who is not really versed in the language of understanding energy, this becomes a part of your evolutionary journey that I recommend that you start learning, right? You start learning how to be an energy reader, what it means to be an energy reader, or different types of frequencies, any type of modalities that inquire about healing, right? Sound healing, physical healing, and that doesn't even have to look like it normally does, like on paper, like counseling or therapy or so forth. Like if you find healing is going to your local swimming pool, and going swimming, or if you live by the ocean, jumping in the ocean every day as a form of spiritual therapy and spiritual healing for you. These are continuous things that I'm going to encourage for Pisces risings to do over the course of your life. Okay. Because one of the evolutionary intentions that is appropriate for you to adopt is learning modalities of how to manage your energy and your emotions. Okay. Because you're so attuned to other people's emotions and the frequency of others, and also like environment situations that you're in, whether you walk into a cafe and it's loaded with a bunch of people, but there's one person in the corner who has just like this awful attitude, Pisces risings are going to pick that up. You're going to pick up that one person's bad attitude. And as you evolve and as you get more equipped with the skills that Pisces has to embody, you'd be able to pinpoint exactly who that is, like in the corner of the room. And you might even get good enough to pinpoint exactly what is the issue, right? But a part of your evolutionary journey here is to understand that boundaries are necessary, okay? Now, Pisces is an archetype that represents universal love and inclusion, right? And one of your greatest strengths is your ability to have a tremendous amount of compassion for human beings, okay? However, what happens when Pisces don't have strong boundaries with their empathy and compassion capacities? There can be emotions that boil within you where, resentment can build up. Okay. Resentment can build up. Okay. Because you can feel taken advantage of, or you can feel like other people cross your boundaries. You can feel like other people are requiring you to sacrifice parts of yourself, or you could feel like you are always sacrificing parts of yourself because of your compassion and your empathy for somebody else that you're close to. Okay, so this can build up levels of resentment for Pisces that, can lead to further issues down the line. Okay, and we'll get into that. But one of the other things that can happen is Pisces can start to feel like they want to escape because they're taking too much on from another person, right? Because again, I want to reiterate, you guys don't have strong boundaries, and you're not supposed to, right? We need Pisces archetype to teach us about universal love, to teach us about empathy, teach us about compassion, and energetically understand that, we can all feel the same thing and we are all interconnected with one another. That is a universal truth that Pisces can, stand by. We're all connected, like you suffer, then I suffer kind of thing, right? So everything is connected to one another. So it's like it does trickle like that. One person suffering, we can go down a rabbit hole like this, right? But one person suffering will ultimately lead to a bunch of people being connected to that one person suffering. Okay. So there's this there's this wholeness that you can hold of spiritual knowledge and spiritual wisdom, and this level of capacity to understand other people's emotions and tap into them and be on their frequency and feel them and honestly take them on as if they were your own, right? Because they can merge. Without the boundaries, they can merge. So it's important over the course of your life, because you're, again, Pisces rising, you're becoming this over the course of your life, is to call in into the other side of your counterpart, which is Virgo, and to practice discernment. Okay. You need to practice discernment in your life of, honestly, who and what situations you can hold empathy and compassion for, and which ones you can't. Okay. So I think a lot of Pisces risings, and this is a strong, virtue that you have, and there's a lot of valor behind this, is that underneath you is that warrior, because the ascendant does represent Aries initially, right? And the warrior archetype. So on some level and capacity, you are a spiritual warrior and probably feel like you can take on a whole lot. Okay. You can heal a whole lot. You can help a whole lot. You have enough compassion, enough love, enough courage even to take on a whole lot. Right. But I'm going to want to point you towards, your Saturn placement and your Mars placement to teach you about how much you can forge and how much boundary making you need to establish in your life in order for you to have that capacity to be able to do that. Okay. Excuse me, by the way, I'm still recovering from a cold. So because the suffering of others and the suffering of the entire world is never something that one person can take on themselves. And that is something that can lead Pisces rising down, a very difficult path, right? A spiral, if you will. Okay. And so say you're not one of those people that wants to save the entire world, right? And you still have compassion and love for other people, but it's more on like a one-to-one basis, or yeah, it's more like in your relationships, your personal relationships that you have, or your family and so forth, right? Another thing that can happen and is a part of the evolutionary journey, and why it's so important for Pisces to learn grounding techniques, okay, is we can see people for the capabilities and the possibilities and the endless beauty that they can hold or they can become, right? So we can essentially put on a rose tinted glass, right? That saying, the rose colored glasses, the rose tinted glasses that we can put on, we can see somebody else, is because there's a fantasy there, right? That Pisces lives in the fantasy world. Most famous artists, creatives, writers, and stuff have either a 12th house trait, a strong Neptune trait, or a strong Pisces trait, right? Because this is where we build our fantasy. This is where we dream. This is where we um, escape reality and escape like the mundane world and envision something that is more, ethereal, more magical, more beautiful, right? Um, Even more encompassing, more loving, and so forth, right? These are amazing qualities for Pisces to have and to escape into, because you can create some really beautiful things when you're in those spaces, and you can level your consciousness up into those spaces, okay? But there's a part of your learning journey, because it's your rising sign, to bring it back down into reality, okay? To learn how to transcend your own personal ego that could be attached to, okay, your personal ego that could be attached to things that you're projecting, might be something that they're not, okay? And what I mean by that is, you could put a relationship on a pedestal, right? You could have expectations of something, but the reality looks quite different. And it's very important for Pisces to evolve and to learn into bridging the gap in between the two, and knowing that you have the wisdom to connect to the universal love that does exist, this ethereal realm. Okay, but there's a part of you that needs to release these attachments to something that is so mystical and magical, and it doesn't quite fit in the reality in the scheme of things. Okay, so what it's going to feel like at times, and you need to be okay with this, is that things are going to seem a little bit boring and a little bit mundane at times, okay? And that's because your imagination is wild. That's because of the magic that you wish for and that you want and that you hope for. That is of somewhat, and I'm not trying to bust anybody's bubble here, right? But it's about bringing clarity into what can be real and what cannot be real, okay? And over time, I think as you get older, you come to realize, or not even older, but like more wiser into becoming Pisces ascendant, you come to realize how you can actually bridge the gap between this magical, mystical world in this space, and how you can create that a part of reality in a very practical sense as well, right? So that you can lift off, and you can imagine, and you can dream, and you can come into these spaces where you feel connected to a higher source. You're basically transcending consciousness at certain levels and degrees. But then you can take some of that back down, and you can bring clarity to it, okay? You can share it with other people and let other people experience that same magic that you had, but down on the ground, right? So that's why some people will begin to do channeling work, right? For instance, or music, for instance, right? Music is created in this space, this magical space. You get a beat, you get a soundtrack, you get the words, like it all comes together, right? In this other world. And then you come back down and you play it on a piano, or you play it on a guitar, or you make the music, you make the soundtrack, on the computer, right? And you bring that magical, mystical escapism type of energy that is so strong for Pisces to want to go into. You bring that back down to reality so that you can actually share that universal energy, right? You can spread that. And that is the interconnectedness that you want to strive for and you reach for. Now, I'm not saying everybody has to be a musician. And I hope this example is, giving the right example here, is that, you can pull something down from that sphere, and then you begin to share it with everybody else. And it might be something brand new, because this is rising. This is your rising. This might be a new discovery. This might be something that's never been done before, something you've never done before. It'd be fresh, it'd be exciting, right? But you can bring it into the tangible world and then begin to share it when connect with everybody else, okay? Connection doesn't always have to be about self-sacrifice here, okay? It can be about spreading your energy, but from positivity and love and transcending consciousness and higher light, okay? One of the last things that I do need to touch on, which, I don't always want to say this is always for every Pisces placement or Pisces rising, but and you know what, I totally understand. I have a lot of 12th house transits right now. I have a 12th house solar return moon right now. I have Saturn in Pisces right now, my fifth, and I've got a solar return sun in the 12th house next year, and the south node in my 12th, whatever, it doesn't matter. So there can be escapism qualities that come up for Pisces risings at certain times, okay? And that can look like many different things, right? That can look like drugs, the most known ones, right? Drugs, alcohol, sex addictions, spacing out, there are things that where you just like need to zone out because reality is not doing it for you at times, okay? So I am all for whatever makes you healthy and happy. And it's not self-destructive to yourself and it's not self-destructive for somebody else. Okay. So, because I believe in things like microdosing, I believe in things like ayahuasca. I myself have wine from time to time now and tequila. I love my margaritas in the summer. You know, I also find myself at times escaping in the gym, right? I love to work out and I go through periods of time where I'm like really crazy about it, right? And I used to be in a band in my young 20s. So there's different forms, right? And a lot of this, I think, is going to be experimentation, okay, and trial and error because you're Pisces rising, okay? So it's a new discovery. You're going to be called to different things in your life at different times that also embody types of escapism, okay? Now, just be aware of that there are healthy versions and unhealthy versions, okay? And it's about purifying your soul because you are able to reach higher forms of consciousness that way. Okay. And I will say from personal experience that the most clarity and the highest forms of high that I've ever had in my life was when I was dead sober. And I had been sober for a while and I was in meditation and I was literally navigating the world around me. I truly believe that we are equipped as human beings to reach these other levels of consciousness without all of the extra stuff, right? Without all of the extra. It's honestly tapping and tuning into your body without giving it these other substances for use, like stuff like breathing, okay, and stuff like the right workouts and the right foods that are appropriate for you that can raise your vibration on a natural, energetic level. Okay. But I do find that Pisces risings, there's times in your life where there's suffering either for yourself or other people. And there'll be those times where you want to escape, okay? And you want to be really hyper tuned and hyper aware of your escapism tendencies and what do they look like, okay? And really honest and raw with yourself because the universe wants specific spiritual evolution and journey from you being born of Pisces rising, okay? You've got a spiritual responsibility essentially behind you. And I feel like this is a little bit of a pep talk, but I do believe from my personal understanding and like what I get as downloads as for Pisces rising is, how you have a specific spiritual mission and you have a specific spiritual responsibility. For most of you, your 10th house is Sagittarius. Okay. So, there is when we get into the spiritual worlds, when we get into the higher ethers, right, there is a level of consciousness that is able to be accessed, but you're only going to get those certain types of accesses and those certain types of information when the universe and your higher self knows that you're responsible enough for it and that you're going to do something with it and that you're going to help others with it and you're going to help yourself with it. Okay. So I'm just going to leave you guys with that, right? Because there's a lot to take in. And I know there's probably some energy exchange here. One of the things actually I will leave you with also that I learned from my spiritual coach, which I'm going to pass on to you and I'm going to do with you is, we say a saying at the end of our sessions and the end of our meetings, and I do this with my clients too. Okay. So any energy that I gave to you, I take back. And any energy that you gave to me, I give back to you. Okay. And that is a very good way for Pisces risings to, end your meals with people, end your dates with people, end your coaching calls with people, right? Whatever it is that you're doing, you need to be really conscious about what you're taking in and what you're putting out, okay, and able to consciously transcend that energy and displace it and put it elsewhere and focus on purifying your own energetic body, okay? Because Pisces rising, it's all in the body for you, okay? It's all energetic body, right? The ascendant is essentially the body itself. So I hope this helped. If you liked this video and this resonated, please give this a thumbs up. It helps my channel grow, of course. Hit subscribe if you're not subscribed already for future videos. And Pisces, if you feel like you can help another Pisces rising out, make sure that you share this video with them, and maybe they need to hear a message as well today. Okay. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll be back soon.